If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thanks very much. And I'm very, very grateful for the continued opportunity to be able to sit here. And sometimes we schedule things, we reschedule, but for this thus far, our guests have been always so amenable. And today we got a chance to talk about the Cadet Corps. Can you imagine celebrating, 2 decades? Well, we'll tell you more. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And if you would, despite it all that's transpiring in our country, let's see if for a brief moment we can focus on the positive and the productive, and as a people draw together so that we see within our populace a continued spirit to do and be, better positioned to add a greater value. As we talk about the Cadet Corps, I'm honored to be able to walk into the presence of people who have such a positive disposition and a nurturing camaraderie. And I was just thinking, as we were doing, normally I would say, well, here we have, Major Leading Second Lieutenant Ebanks, share with us. But would you, through, this meeting, do two things? Not just introduce yourselves with respect to your title, and if you're comfortable. We see oftentimes involuntary positions, whether it's, if they don't mind me using them as an example, the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens, phenomenal women and increasingly a growing number of men who volunteer, who take of their time and their, financial resources to help the community. We see it in our PTAs, we see it in the schools. But here through the cadets, we have people who not only are stipend or paid, but who volunteer significantly to help to develop a very, endearing spirit within our young people. And we fail, just like we do with the volunteers in the service clubs, to sometimes see those who are seconded, who are attached, who are otherwise employed, to understand their skill sets. They may have trained as an educator and now, volunteering as, some other capacity. Our appreciation for people's talents sometimes don't extend to those down the street or across the table from us, because we don't see their published biographies in international journals. So would that be helpful for our people to appreciate just a little bit about who we are and the role we serve, including ourselves? Usually we say ladies first, but I think it's always respectful to say, let the aged be Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Dwayne, and thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to say good afternoon to your listeners out there in Radio Land. As to our volunteers, we really want to say thank you to them. Yeah. It's very important that we say thank you to those who volunteer, whether they are directly involved or they are persons who just by the wayside to pop in and say hello. But it's very important because we do have volunteers in our program, and we have volunteers who are from the education system. We have persons from HSA. We have persons from RCIPS. We also have persons from the private sector and indeed from central government.
Right.
So we do have volunteers who are amazing. From day to day, they would drop in and assist us with the Cadet program. As you know, the Cadet program we operate on daily here in Grand Cayman and also on Cayman Brac. So our volunteers are so amazing. They give us their disposable time that they have, and we do appreciate it. And for that, from the Cadet headquarters standpoint, I do say thank you to them.
Right. And I think, sometimes even with those volunteers, whether they are parents who may have had children going through or who may, not themselves have any sort of personal contact, they see the benefit. But we don't always understand that whether it's the physician or the educator, or whether it's the person who may be, a plumber's apprentice, or a fellow who has, retired and say, you know what, I just been inherited a lot of money, I don't need it. They see the need to give back, but they come with not just a genuine commitment, but a skill set, and that resource is being harnessed. So with that, we don't need to go far afield because there's so much talent within our midst. And that is, what I say, one hand.
One hand wash the other.
Yeah, one hand. Many hands make light work, right?
Right.
So from your perspective, you've, share, and maybe Second Standing Banks, good afternoon. Let's not get too caught up and get too excited, because I want us to appreciate that we need to work together if we're going to make it, a society that we can be proud of and pass on to generations. So how are you today, Mom?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. As you share your sort of trajectory throughout the Cadet Corps from time there, and I may, as you reminded me earlier, show to our listeners that within you we have the embodiment of strength in all areas. So we might talk about that a little bit if we can. How is it for you? What is it like? What has it been? And introduce yourself as you wish.
I am Second Lieutenant Ebanks. My first name is Antonika. I have been a volunteer with the Cadet Corps for the last 2 years. I joined back during COVID. I was a cadet previously. I spent, I think it was 7 or 8 years as a cadet. So I've done both aspects, so as a cadet and as a volunteer. It's been a little bit of an adjustment trying to get used to being on the opposite side. Yeah. But it's interesting to see how you can make such a difference on young people's lives. Giving back, especially to the young people, is very important because they are our future. If we don't develop our future, there might not be anything for us in days to come.
And as you share that, I'm thinking back to just one of the many instances where the cadets have played a pivotal role in assisting the community. I wouldn't say many years ago, but when Second Lieutenant was there as a cadet, as part of the agriculture show, for instance, recognizing that many of us, thousands of us, attend through the day, and parking becomes an issue, and you were helping, with your other cadets to facilitate and then directing. And I thought on that day in question, I'm at work. I have the benefit of a wonderful team. I have some shade that I can get on, that I can move as I need. I'm dressed in much more comfortable clothing than your uniform, and it's hot. And I look out and I see young people that my heart went out. I'm thinking, how are they coping? Major.
It's part of the discipline that we teach within the program. It's never an easy task to deal with the children on a day-to-day basis, and to actually get them out there to actually do a show like that, and to do it so that members of the public can appreciate that they're there providing a service to them.
Right.
It is always amazing to see them on a day-to-day basis. You speak about the agriculture show. We have other things that we are involved in as well in the program, because the Cadet Corps, we are also a part of the NEOC. When there's a national disaster, the Cadet Corps is called out to assist as call takers. And as you know, that's the front line where persons would call in, and you would really need that reassuring voice on the other end of the line to say, okay, everything will be okay. We'll pass you off to someone who is better able to assist you in your time of need. So it's the discipline that we actually teach within the program.
And this is, I'll be mindful from my perspective to ensure that we focus on the discussion without interjecting in a sort of personal view. But as we think about capacity building, whether in an organization or in a country, the more resources that we have, the more of our people that are able to draw on each other as a community. We look to Hurricane Ivan, for instance. There were some communities, whether because of the way they've organized themselves or because they've had this great sense of community, knew that they could draw on each other and get to a space where there was a added sense of safety. In a minute, it was reasonably safe. They could go and assist so that rebuilding, that check on each other. Imagine if we have a formalized, developed system that we can draw on, whether from first aid to making sure that roadways are passable again to medical attention. We have it, and it's self-sufficiency. It's about national security. So, second lieutenant, whether you're crossing the stage as a judge or you're being sashed, the skill sets are almost transferable, no?
Yes, sir. It helped, especially. Well, I did Miss Came On. For those that don't know, I was in the pageant last year. It's a bit of an adjustment going from combat boots to heels, but
I haven't made that adjustment yet. I'm still in my heels, just kidding. I love that lot.
But with the organization skills and the discipline that I learned through Cadet, it helped me transfer that over to Miss Came On, because at that time I was also doing school, finishing up my bachelor's. Yeah. So I had to set myself in a way where I could give time to everything that I was doing and ensure that I was still giving my best to everything.
Okay.
So it took a while, but I got through it.
And maybe let's take this quick break. When we come back, Major, we can talk about that, because I think increasingly with everything, the more that we understand, and even me that may have a particular strong personal view about something, if we are sufficiently informed about it, we can still maintain a view, but at least we know that we come from a considered perspective. But there are many of us who aren't knowledgeable about certain things, and the more we learn, the better we are able to make a meaningful contribution. So you tell us about the Cadet Corps, the history of it, some of the future plans and expectations, some of the participation, and even highlight, as you rightly shared, that the volunteers, they come with great skill sets, and even those that have been seconded or stipend, they're not just there because they're there bringing all these other things. Maybe we can highlight that. All right. Going to pause and take that break. When we come back, more talk today.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Subway is serving up a special new sauce, bursting with flavor in every bite. The new Savory Collection is a tropical sweet and spicy sauce made with a combination of spices, habanero peppers, thyme, onion, black pepper, ginger, citrus juices, and molasses.
So good.
Wow.
Sensational.
Delicious.
Subway's Savory Collection pairs perfectly with our oven roasted chicken or steak sub. Savor the flavor. For a limited time, only at Subway. Subway. Eat fresh.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location, ValueMed on Walkers Road or Boddentown. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks very much for joining us. And for those who are listening, if you would like to be a part of our discussion as we talk about the Cadet Corps and highlight, the fact that it's been 20 years. 949-8037 is one number that you can call, 949-8037. Or you can call toll free, 1-800-534-8255. 1-800-534-8255. Together with Major Levy and Second Lieutenant Ebanks. I wouldn't say that Major Levy was there for 20 years because he would probably only been, 5, 6, maybe 7 at most, right? 6. But as I've said to many of my students, as a young person, if you would ask them, most of them, imagine what life is like 20 years from now. For them, with great respect, next week is a long time. When you're 30 years old, you're old, right? But when you now 20 years on, and you look back, you could probably remember with some degree of clarity, well, 20 years ago today, I was doing this and that. It seems like it was yesterday in some instances, So looking forward 20 years may be impossible for many, but looking back is almost relatively a lot easier. Now we are 20 years.
20 years, yes, sir.
It's a major, no pun.
It's a major achievement over
Indeed.
those years. As you rightfully said, I was not here, but some of the research that I've done and speaking to other persons who would have been in the program, the Cadet Corps here has done significant amount of work over the years. The Cadet Corps within itself is a youth development organization with cadet membership reserved for basically students between the ages of 11 and 17. Right, that's the cadet aspect of it. And then we have the adult volunteers where Miss Ebanks now falls as the part where they can come back and give service. They start at age 18. And the cadet program within itself is a fun, adventurous, competitive, or I want to say challenging, educational set of activities that we have for these kids. So within those 20 years, these are things that would have been given to the cadets, making it fun for them, challenging, and also educational. The motto for the Cadet Corps is actually leading the way, who endures wins. Rightfully so, we would have had persons in the program who would have only been there for probably 1 month, 2 months, possibly 6 months. However, if you don't stick to the program for the long haul, you would not really benefit from what the program has to offer. So that motto, leading the way, who endures wins, really is significant to the cadet program. Some of the things that the Cadet Corps would have achieved over those years is actually, I say that in 2002, that's when the first training session was conducted here in the Cayman Islands, where they had some camp at Northside Civic Center and stuff like that. In 2004, the Cadet Corps introduced stuff like the Btec. They were the first organization to bring the Btec program to the Cayman Islands. And in that year, the Cadet Corps also sent cadets, which is just 2 years into the program, they were able to send cadets on to Barbados as a part of the Caribbean training camp that was being held there. So within 2 years, that's a significant amount of development to be able to send cadets to Barbados on a camp. And in 2008, and forgive me, I would not be forgiven if I don't mention, in 2008, the BRAC, Layman E. Scott Detachment, was launched. So I know the persons on the BRAC, they would not forgive me if I did not mention that. Right? And in 2010, there was another development for the Marine Detachment. So the cadetting is not just about left, right, marching. It's about marine aspect of the training as well. So that was launched in 2010. And then in 2012, the cadets here hosted, just 10 years after launching, the cadets here hosted the Caribbean camp. And I think that's significant. Some countries who would have been a part of the cadet movement in the region for umpteens a year, they have not yet hosted that. So it's a significant achievement on the part of the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps.
I think we see that, when given that it is a sort of a financial services, if the sector would allow me, a powerhouse when it comes to its positioning. We recognize that many conferences that fall, whether they're reinsurance, whether they're in emerging technologies, cryptocurrencies, and like, we are at the forefront. But here we also, in terms of volunteering, in terms of community-led organizations for youth empowerment, like the Cadets, we're at the forefront. I want to ask more about the marine and the terrestrial component, but with great deference, we do have a caller joining us as we speak to the 20th anniversary of the Cadets. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Sterling. And good afternoon to wonderful people here. It's just very invigorating, very, very good to hear the Cadet Corps is so important. All the countries around us have that. But what I wondered about this, what about the training with weapons? I'll tell you why I ask this, because Cadet Corps in every country, they're based on being, the intention is to produce officer material for your mostly the army, it is the United States and other countries and Canada and so forth. And they're producing up to lieutenants and lieutenant, we call it in the British way. Because I remember specifically when we were in Jamaica, my brothers were going to school there and so forth, growing up there. My fathers were there building boats and inspecting boats for them and teaching navigation and so forth, a big thing, and I won't go into that aspect of it. But my older brother, Stan, just before he left, a couple of years after what I'm talking about, this was 1953, when Her Majesty came to Jamaica upon her coronation. In June of 53, she came visit there. And because it was very important to them, that island, the colony and so forth, and the long association with a big regiment here, all this had been. And I remember my older brother, Stan, he was proudly marching then, June 53, as a cadet with his Enfield 202 across his shoulders, bearing arms, and the regiment, the regular regiment soldiers would use the Enfield 303, a powerful rifle. Very similar to the Winchester in the United States aspect of it. And they would go to the target range often and practice, shooting and getting their accuracy up to par and so forth. And they were taught to use those rifles and all that. I just wonder what are your views on that here? Are they going to be trained to use weapons? Because this is the modern world. I mean, we never know what can happen in Cayman, and if you're going to produce officer material, they'd have to be trained in using weapons. I just wondered about that, and I'll hang up and listen on, but this is wonderful.
Yes,
and I hope the discipline and everything that comes from it is so important, and the knowledge and many things they can learn that will help them in later life, whether they go on to be full-fledged army officers or whatever. But it can help a lot. It's very important, this Cadet Corps. I just wondered about the weapons part of it, being taught to use that. I'll hang up and listen on.
Well, thank you for that. And Major, if you perhaps wish to address that.
Okay. Thank you very much, caller. I must say it has always been, from I came here, some controversial topic about using weapons within the Cadet Corps. However, the use of weapons here or anywhere else in the region, because all our neighboring countries, they use weapons as part of their training, and it's part of the discipline that we teach. We teach them the discipline, the good use of the weapon. That is what is done. Over the years, we have not been doing much of it, but it is still taught. It is a part of our program that we do teach the use of a weapon. The main purpose we do teach the use of weapon in the Cadet Corps is for parade purposes. So cadets can use the weapons on parade. There's also the use in terms of competitions, because when we go to other countries, there's a need for competition. There's the PJ Partisan shooting competition. There's another shooting competition in Barbados that once we are a part of the Cadet Corps or the Cadet Force movement within the region and we go to these camps, we need to be able to provide a team that can bring back the trophy to Cayman Islands. And we are at all times trying to ensure that our youngsters are not disadvantaged in any way when it comes to being a part of the program. In terms of our use of weapons, it's not solely on us. Currently, we get the assistance of the RCIPS as best as we can, and then we are also in the midst of working out MOUs between ourselves, the RCIPS, Coast Guard, and in the future we'll be talking about the regiment and other agencies. But the use of weapons, it is indeed a part of our cadet training program.
And I guess as parents who are interested in getting their children involved, get the requisite information as to all. You referenced the Marine component that came subsequently. Maybe after this break, well, we're mindful that Miss Susan is always in charge.
Yes.
I forget that sometimes. When
she met me at the door.
yeah. So we could maybe talk about that and ask how the two blend and the like. All right, I'm going to pause and take a break and come back and we'll discuss until 1 p.m. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Subway is serving up a special new sauce, bursting with flavor in every bite. The new Savory Collection is a tropical sweet and spicy sauce made with a combination of spices, habanero peppers, thyme, onion, black pepper, ginger, citrus juices, and molasses.
So good. Wow. Sensational. Delicious.
Subway's Savory Collection pairs perfectly with our oven roasted chicken or steak sub. Savor the flavor. For a limited time, only at Subway. Subway. Eat fresh.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
It's Kirk Freeport's 50th anniversary, and we're celebrating with you. If it's your 50th birthday in 2022, we have a $50 gift card for you. If you're celebrating your 50th wedding anniversary or higher, it's $500. We'll also donate $50,000 to charities and increase the rewards for store purchases too. Purchases of $500 will receive branded gifts, while purchases of $100 gain entry into our monthly sweepstakes with prizes from luxury brands. View terms and conditions on kirkfreeport.com.
The annual business surveys are ongoing. The surveys are conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office and seek to measure the economic performance of all local industries. The survey forms for this year were mailed or emailed to all relevant entities operating in the Cayman Islands. The surveys are confidential under the Statistics Act and are exempt from the Freedom of Information Act. Your response matters. Do your part. Fill out and return your survey forms to the Economics and Statistics Office. For assistance in filling up the forms or for more information, visit www.eso.ky or call 244-4676 or 244-4607. Better data, better decisions, better business.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to the 20th anniversary of the Cadet Corps. Major Leader Second Lieutenant Ebanks, for taking some time out of your day and joining us. And as we speak to the celebration as important as 20 years, whether it's your high school reunion, your anniversary, or your birthday, 20 years is 20 years. But if I could, given that we are an island and our islands are separated by a couple of feet of water between us and a few miles, there's the marine component, as you shared, and then are there two? How do they play? Does a cadet get exposure to all of it? Is it you pick one section? How does that work, Major?
All right, so currently what we have is detachments. So there's a detachment at John Gray, Clifton Hunter, Triple C. We have the band. We also have a detachment on the Bragg. And then we have the Marine detachment. Currently, because of the amount of volunteers we have, we only have 11 persons in that detachment. All the cadets, though, do get some exposure to some marine aspect, whether it be watermanship, where you teach them how to float, stay afloat using the uniform like this. So all cadets, they do get training in that area. However, the Marine, they specifically deal with things like seamanship, ship husbandry, knots, boat handling. So that specific training towards the Marine, those 11 cadets, so they spend their afternoons on a Friday and every other Saturday dealing with boat handling.
Okay.
And then our other cadets, when the training is so planned, they are exposed to whether it be kayaking or other activities.
Okay. So as much as I would want at some point to maybe even focus on it in just a personal interest, we're on an island. I know many people have said through the schools how important it is that we should at least have an element of water safety, if not proficient swimmers, at least be comfortable. But just for clarity in relation to the marine aspect, as the prospective cadet sort of says, I'm interested, do they need to demonstrate an interest in the marine aspect to be offered that detachment, or is it that it's just by default? How is that?
Well, we do offer them the choice. Okay. You want to be a part of whether the band or the but then there are some people that we say, okay, listen, we would like you to go there, and then we train them. Okay. So you spoke about swimming. Yes, we do, and we're engaging persons in teaching them to swim, and we also have a diving course that we also give to cadets as well. And then safety is always paramount, so we also deal with that as well.
Yeah, and this is, as a young person, even if you ask them what sports they like or what instruments they want to learn, they may know, or they may say, well, can I check, different ones, and then they find their forte.
Exactly.
Like with possible careers. I mean, when I grew up, I still want to figure out what I want to do. Right? But 20 years, I mean.
20 years.
What are some of the things you have planned for your big anniversary?
Okay. So as we said, we're here to talk mainly about that 20th anniversary. 2002 on to now, it's been a long time, and so we are planning a church service. The original plan that we had, based on weather this weekend, we have to kind of shelf it, but we're actually still going to church this Sunday. We'll be going to the Georgetown New Testament Church. A few officers and cadets will be attending church just to do the worship with the congregation and some amount of praying for the Cadet Corps for the 20 years that would have passed, and then for 20 years and beyond. Yeah. Then we also have planned a anniversary parade, medal and presentation parade. We haven't set the date yet, but it's going to be sometime October, November. Right? So medal presentation and the parade. There's also, at that parade, we intend to have a display booth, and we really want to make it a big gala so that persons can come. We do appreciate that the Cadet Corps on its own may not be able to sell it to persons to come to. So we want other persons to join and partner with us so that they too can have a booth on the location and possibly have some musical artists to help to bring persons. But the main event will be to showcase the Cadet Corps, the uniforms we wear, and whatever we do. It may not just be a parade. We have a display of first aid, a display of putting a skit together to show things happening in the community and how cadets can help, right? We also have planned a Caribbean Cadet Knowledge Challenge where we're going to invite other persons from the region via Zoom or
Hopefully in person.
Right. Well, hopefully, yes. Right, so we can have this knowledge challenge about cadetting and things happening in the region, and we intend to win. There
you go.
Right. There's also a plan to have the anniversary, 20th anniversary book launched as well. There's also a plan to have a band concert.
Okay.
The band has been practicing. They've been doing a wonderful job. Yeah. Right. So we're planning a concert. And that's going to be a free concert. It's not something people need to pay. Everybody can come and support the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps at that time. And then within our own detachments, we plan to have a intercompany debate. So we get some topics and speak about it. And those topics won't necessarily be just about cadets. Right. It's going to be current affairs topics, and the cadets need to prepare. Even if you need to go to your teacher, your debate club at school, to get them involved, to prepare your team, that's what we'll be doing. And then there's the special community project. We do community projects regularly, but we are going to have a special one this year for the 20th anniversary. And then finally, we have our 20th anniversary summer camp that is to be held. Our date currently is the 2nd of July to the 16th. That's the date we would have blocked out, and we have a host of things planned for that activity as well. COVID situation.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yes. So we do have a host of things planned for this 20th anniversary.
Well, we certainly would like to be able to help you with not just the promotion and showcasing, but the invitation, if it's okay, and for that future sort of invitation. But now, Second Lieutenant, from that perspective, you were part of the cadet. You've walked the stage in heels. Now you're wearing the combat boots. Is it okay maybe to ask you what the recruiting process was like? You're a student. You're looking at extracurricular activities for every reason, and now you obviously see the benefits in hindsight. But as you throw back your mind to that, what was the recruiting process like? Share with us your experience.
So I guess my experience was maybe a little bit different because my siblings were already in cadet. So my sister was actually in the first batch of cadets. So she began in 2002. So this is really her 20th year anniversary as well for cadet.
How's that possible? She can't be much more than Let me not say that.
So I pretty much grew up around cadet. So I knew a lot of the officers from time I was very young, and I got to see what they were doing. So as soon as I got in middle school, I said, Mom, sign me up. I'm ready. And we started the process. And as soon as I started school, we filled out the forms. Recruitment starts in September. So that's at the beginning of the school year. So we started the recruitment process. So we would have trainings every Saturday. At that time, the headquarters was at First Assembly of God, which is by Kings. And we would go there every time to have training. And we would have different aspects of training. So you'd have general knowledge, badges of rank. You'd also have the drill, ensuring that your uniform is to the standard as well as your boots. And just going through that, it was a learning process because it was a little different from what I was used to. But as you went along, you started to grasp different concepts. And then the persons that were also in the recruitment with you, you were also able to make new friends. So for me, my recruit batch was a bit smaller than it is than what's happening now because it's a lot more recruits coming through with each batch. Mine was maybe 15. So it's a bit small. But at that time, the Corps also had quite a number of people. So recruitment was a little smaller then. But just going through the process and getting to the recruit camp, that was a major milestone for all of us that were in my recruitment batch because a lot of times we weren't as enthusiastic about training.
That's the same with football or music. There are times maybe not.
Yeah, so we all made it through recruitment. Not everyone stuck with the program, but those that did, they did see the benefits at the end of the day. And I would say to anyone that joins, stick it through because there are a lot of benefits. I've gained many things from Cadet Corps. I got Btec from Cadet. That was a part of my high school passes. I also had the ability to travel, even though COVID is happening right now. Before COVID, the cadet was traveling quite often. So I've gone to Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Canada. I was the youngest to actually travel for Cadet. I was, I think, 12 at the time when I went to Trinidad, and that was their 100th year anniversary camp. So there's different aspects of Cadet. They also do Blue Mountain exercise, where you climb to the peak of Blue Mountain, which also sometimes goes towards Duke of Edinburgh.
Yes.
So I currently have Duke of Edinburgh Gold. So there are different aspects of Cadet, and there are benefits from it. It gets you out of potentially the shell that you're in, because you have to interact with those around you. So it takes you out of your comfort zone. So if you're looking for something different as well, that takes you out of what you're comfortable with, I would suggest the Cadet Corps. And also, if you're looking for something that helps you with your discipline and your organizational skills, the Cadet Corps is the way to go. And that's not just for cadets, it's also for adults as well. It's very beneficial for both adults and cadets.
You know, for me, in any community that provides a safe, nurturing, inclusive environment that our people can, as you say, develop skills, can develop lifelong friendships, but within them, a resource that contributes to making the community better, we discover that we're more alike than we are different. And we sit and we knock a 6 quick time. We understand, or we celebrate together. So it's been a pleasure. Any closing thoughts, Major, that you want to share with us?
Okay, well, just to say thank you. Thank you very much to our volunteers who weekly come out and assist the Cadet program. They are phenomenal, and I really want to say thank you to them, so that in the future, we are also seeking other persons to join the Cadet Corps from a volunteer perspective, adult volunteer, to assist, because currently our numbers are like 200. And we are like 40-something volunteers. Not all our volunteers can come out at the same time. So we are really seeking persons to come in and join to help us to celebrate this, our 20th year of service to the Cayman Islands. Right?
So the contact info for the Cadet Corps is 938-8820-5. You can also go onto our website, which is cicadetcorps.ky. So it's cicadetcorps.ky. The email is cadetcorps@gov.ky. The office number is 946-9810. The office for Cayman Brac is 948-8824. And our Instagram is Cayman Cadet, and our Facebook page is Cayman Islands Cadet. So if you want to get in contact with us, feel free to reach out on any of our social media platforms.
Well, I was thinking, they should look better in combat fatigue or high heels. You know what? You make it look great no matter what you rock.
Thank you.
May I, prayerfully say that you continue to be blessed and have a wonderful, winning spirit and great success. And Major, thank you to all of the seconded officers, the volunteers that you shared at the outset. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are as a very healthy, productive society. So thanks very much. Huh?
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I'm going to pause and take that break, and when we come back, you're going to rejoin us because we have a fantastic segment in store for you once again. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Police have named a man in relation to the shooting death of Harry Elliott. Kane Dimitri Thomas was arrested in connection with the murder of the 62-year-old on Friday night. A woman was also arrested for harboring Mr. Thomas. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. Executions in Iran rose alarmingly by 25% last year and surged after hardline cleric Ibrahim Raisi was elected president, two campaign groups say. At least 333 people were put to death, according to Norway-based Iran Human Rights and France's Together Against the Death Penalty. Their report says the number of executions for drug-related offenses, 126, was 5 times higher than in 2020. And Samsung has apologized for a recent advert which showed a woman getting up at 2 a.m. to go for a run through the streets of a city alone. The advert has been criticized by some women's running groups and safety campaigners for being unrealistic. Samsung has told Radio 1 Newsbeat it was never its intention to be insensitive to ongoing conversations around women's safety. They apologize for how this may have been received. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio K-Man on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio K-Man app or log on to our website, radiokman.gov.ky.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
It's the right time and this is the place to be.
Give your space a refresh with the spring saving sale this April at Thomason Furniture and Mattress Gallery. Sofas, sectionals, and love seats take 20% off the lowest price. 3-piece queen bedroom sets in solid wood take 20% off. 5-piece dining sets, TV stands, coffee tables, and wall shelves take 20% off. Sheets, pillows, fragrance warmers, and sprays take 15% off. Great savings on mattresses, foundations, and frames. Indoor and outdoor furniture. The spring saving sale in store only all April long at Tomlinson Furniture and the Mattress Gallery at Tomlinson Building, Walkers Road. Check our Facebook or Instagram for sale flyer details.
It's the right time and this is the place to be.
It's in our name. Fried chicken, it's our thing. Others may try, but we have the original. We put the extra and extra crispy. And our secret in everyone's mouth. So if we want to make the best chicken sandwich, we just need to put our name on it. New Kentucky Chicken Sandwich. An abundant triple-breaded filet, premium mayo and pickles, all in a buttered brioche bun. The best chicken sandwich had to be KFC.
Are you a Caymanian status holder, or a resident of the Cayman Islands who is interested in enhancing transparency, accountability, ethical standards, and promoting awareness in public bodies? If you are civic-minded with the highest level of integrity, the Commission's Secretariat, on behalf of His Excellency the Governor, welcomes your expression of interest for appointment to the various statutory commissions. For more information on the commissions and candidate qualifications, visit the Commission's Secretariat website at www.commissionssecretariat.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thank you so much for joining us. And we're hopeful that through our platform, we're able to engage, involve, include, and educate as many of our people so that we're positioned, to come away in a space that we own it, claim it, and be a part of it. To Ms. Stephanie Dos Santos, thank you very much for joining us. I must say,
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I keep thinking of people and people as they interact with each other, whether it's in their household or in their workspace, or even sometimes when you see them with their pets. And for instance, we take our favorite pet. Some of us have more than one dog or more than one pet, and you just watch them. So earlier today, I called a friend and I said, okay, I know you at this time you usually take your dog for the morning walk, and it was a bit rainy, and he said, the walk isn't as much for the dog as it is for him. It isn't that he's getting out there and getting the exercise. It's that there's a time, and he shared that one particular morning, much like earlier today, it was raining a little bit harder, and he wasn't sure which one, whether it was the dog or himself, they were more disappointed that they couldn't get out. And he thought, well, if I was to try to take the dog would resist. So they were looking at each other, and I can picture this now, and I'm sure being a great gifted storyteller that he is, there was some exaggeration until I observed this morning very early. The dog was saying to him in his words, "Come on, man, don't be lazy. You can get your hair wet. I have more hair than you. Let's take a stroll." And so they went, when the rain eased. And in that time, as they returned, that bond between man and man's best friend, they were, drying off the dog. And the dog just looked at him. Again, you may think he's exaggerating. Well, I'm so glad that you were willing to brave the rain with me so I can get out and enjoy it. And I was mentioned that we were going to have this discussion today. And you see, oftentimes we don't appreciate the relationships we have. And without betraying any confidences, he talked about a mutual friend who has, I call it a greenhouse, a little garden with certain plants that he's just experimenting with, all legal plants, flowering, beautiful ornamentals. And in last year and the year before, spending an extended time in the garden, the plants bloomed even better. And he thinks it's because of that talking to the plants, that interaction. Now, I must share, up until this morning, I thought, okay, that guy needed some, more physical companionship with people. But it was so beautiful to watch how the positive interaction, the positive nurturing, speaking to the plant, made the plant respond and bloom, blossom so much better. We see it with the dog, right? But I wonder to what extent we extend it to the person. So healthy relationships, is there such a thing?
Yes, absolutely. It definitely starts with self. And when you talk about your friend with the dog, it's really about being able to tune into the other being. I can say that it's an intimate relationship that he has with his pet. It's the ability to see into and to feel into.
Okay.
So when you're willing and when you have an open heart and open mind to it, you realize that, animals are way smarter than what we want to think.
Yeah. We understand that in the wild, we may see animals moving in a certain direction long before we are cognizant that something is happening. Even, thunder is being heard in the distance. They recognize it. Earthquakes, tidal waves and the like, they seem to know.
Yeah, because we all have intuition. And animals are going to react on their behave on following their intuition. And if we were as human beings to do that, the world would be a better place.
I want to ask about that, but before I do, just revisit the animals. We know that certain animals, let's just stick with dogs, from what I gather, certain dogs are much more amenable to being trained for certain functions. And we look at not just the support dog, but the dog that can assist you and detect seemingly when the person is about to have some health episode. And whether it's a seizure or the like, the dog can respond. We've presumably been told that because of the intervention of the dog, the person's life has been saved. Not only its male human counterpart, somebody else in the nearby vicinity. Dogs are very sensitive and intuitive.
Yeah, and they got conditioned for it, right?
Okay.
It depends what purpose you want for it. So you can condition your dog to help with epileptic crisis or detect disease or detect drugs and it's the same for humans.
Okay. So I was thinking, thank you for that. So with that, we get conditioned, we get trained, we get, and there are some of us that seem to be, by friends and family, I'll use the word deliberately and perhaps with some degree in some people's mind with a negative connotation, or you're prone to this. You have that, that way, and we look at it as if it's a bad thing when they're perceptive about others' behaviors or about the environment in which they're in. They don't feel as comfortable in an environment, and then people will say, so is it then that we are unwilling because of possible being excluded or labeled or maligned or somehow by not tuning in to what is going on around us and the behaviors of others?
It's actually because we feel unsafe.
Okay.
We feel unsafe, so that's the reason why we're going to avoid putting ourselves into situations. We're going to avoid being 100% committed to a relationship because we feel unsafe. We feel emotionally unsafe.
Yeah. I'm reminded of comments of a great lady who said, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to open yourself up to that in order to genuinely give and receive love, whether that's amorous or agape.
Yeah, this is a fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to break it down on how does it apply? How do you apply it in practice?
Mm-hmm.
But when you break it down, it's about knowing who you are. Mm-hmm. So if you know exactly who you are, which is nothing more than having boundaries, because your boundaries are not walls. It's everything that's going to define you.
Okay.
It's going to be your likes, dislikes, feelings and emotions, and your personal truth in relation to the world. So if you know what your boundaries are, you hold your own space and you feel safe within yourself. You're not anymore looking outside for someone to bring you that emotional safety. And you cannot actually. That's why, it's so dysfunctional in relationships these days. Very often you're in a relationship 1 foot in and 1 foot out. So you can ensure that you've got an exit way.
Is that because we're sort of conditioned to self-protection? We want to make sure, just in case. In businesses, they talk about contingency plan. Governments may have a redundancy. Is that part of it, that as a people, we have 1 foot in, 1 foot out? We're just tipping our toes in the water just to test it. Because, we're unsafe, we don't feel sufficiently grounded.
Yeah. Well, if you don't feel emotionally safe, you're not grounded.
Mm-hmm.
It comes back down to understanding, okay, what is it that I need to feel emotionally safe, physically safe? There's 5 categories where you can work on your boundaries. Mental boundaries, spiritual boundaries, physical boundaries, material boundaries, and the third one.
So is it mental, physical, spiritual, material? That's 4. Okay.
Did I say physical?
Physical, spiritual, material.
Mental and emotional.
And emotional.
The main ones. So everyone that has codependency tendencies have a very hard time to set emotional, healthy boundaries.
Mental, emotional. Some of us would use the words as if they're one and the same. What's the difference from your perspective? We look at a person who, my view, they see, feel, and they express what they see and feel. So we come in. That's sort of the emotional aspect of it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Emotional boundaries, it's more going to be what do you need to feel emotionally safe. So it can be, for example, when you have an argument with your partner, it's going to be about setting a boundaries, such as we need to, I will really need to sort that issue out, like onto that time frame, because otherwise, I tend to feel really insecure. I feel unsafe. I feel abandoned or rejected. And it makes me feel disconnected. Right. So this is a way you can express a healthy way, an emotional boundary.
Okay. And you referenced earlier, and you were speaking to, Ms. Stephanie Dos Santos. I think many times we don't appreciate that if we understand, what we're facing, if we're willing to get a better insight into what, it'll help our relationships, whether it's the working with our colleagues, whether it's part of the team building, there's a particular project that needs to be completed, you're collaborating on something, whether across the table or electronically through, time and distance. But you talked about knowing who we are, knowing who you are. Do we really know who we are? We're concerned we want to know about the other person, but can we really know who we are?
Well, this is the thing. We think we know who we are, when actually our personality, what we think is our personality, is an amalgamation of the protective personality that happen while we have traumas during childhood. So let me give you a concrete example. So you've got needs, as a little boy, you've got your needs, you need your parent, but they're not there to meet your needs. So what's going to be happening is a fragmentation within your consciousness. There's going to be a split. There's going to be one side that's going to be the little boy that needs. And there's going to be the protective personality on the other side that's going to say, I don't need anyone.
I'm independent, I can do well.
So to the point that we're going to disown the part of us that needs, we are going to turn our back to it to focus on the part that says, I don't need anyone, I'm independent. And this is what we're going to think. We think, I'm independent. I was thinking that, because I went through that also myself and thinking all my life, I can prove it that I'm independent. Look, I've been traveling on my own for 20 years. When coming to the realization of saying, I do need people in my life was so frightening for so long. But when I came to the point and was comfortable with it, this is where a lot of healing happened.
But there are many of us who, for whatever reason, and I defer to what you shared, we want to demonstrate that we're independent. We don't need you. We don't need that. I can do this myself. For a very young child, or as a parent or as an educator, as an adult, we may say, look at that independent boy, good spirit, she is. And we try to nurture that in some cases because that gives them this sense of independence. But fast forward where that child now is a young adult, or is in 40s and 50s, has been independent, financially independent, has carved their own way, worked his way through university, has done all these things. He or she now is independent. Do we really need that human connection, or are we going to be, say, I've got here all alone by myself? Everything else is just transactional.
Yeah, but you see, you can have created everything and it's about the emotional independence, okay? Because, I was saying, I'm independent, I have my own money, I've got my own job, I've got, but you can have everything, any material things. It's just, you're going to feel miserable if you don't have people around you, if you don't connect on a deep level with people around you.
But what if you find yourself in a space where you have this sense of independence? For either of our listeners, I'll use the example. We tend to want to look at people who may not necessarily sort of align with what we think is a quote-unquote successful person, right? So let's look at what we define as a successful person: the professional, the homeowner, the person who volunteers in the community, and by all intents and purposes appear to be this successful, independent person and got it all together. We don't know what transpires, in their private space. So with that person is available, accessible, and is offering to provide that, what was the word you used? Emotional
safety.
Right. Why is it that there are so many of us that are unwilling and just refuse to embrace that? It's there. It's the thing that we all need and want to feel loved, wanted, included, validated, and yet it's there. We just won't embrace it.
Well, you see, we think we know what we want, but we don't really, because of the socialization process.
Okay. And then society's expectations as well.
Absolutely, but even from a young age, you understand very quickly that parts of who you are acceptable and some that are not.
Okay.
This is why we end up rejecting, disowning parts of our truth.
Okay.
And we feel unsafe as we grow up because do we really know who we are? Not really.
So as we talk to healthy relationships, I would imagine that many people would immediately think of personal relationships. And through you, I may ask them, what about the working relationships? So you have a team within a corporate setting, and we could probably see it much easier at work in the sporting arena, where all of the team players need to gel. As I said, they need to get along, they need to work. The 11 players on the field at the same time better have a shared objective. The keeper is as important as the center forward. But in the working environment, where the team is tasked with a new marketing campaign or product development, we hear words like consensus building. But if that one team member says, hey, wait a minute, why are we doing it this way? Have we considered this? Sometimes that person is seen as the outlier, the pariah, the upstart, and.
But why? Is it because it pushes people to question what they've been doing so far? Because then it depends on the objective. What is it? Do you want to just have the job done ASAP, or is it about doing the job properly? Because you might want to consider what the person is saying.
But then, if that person, whether it's a team of 5 or whether it's a jury of 12, if that person is questioning certain things, that it looks like this is what it is, or we've always done it this way, let's maintain the status quo. If that person is questioning, how can we get the others on that team to see, we need to be not just, exhaustive and exhausting, but we need to make sure that we explore this thing so that we come up with the very, can I use the phrase, best possible outcome. If it's a case of a jury decision in a court, whether it's a civil or criminal matter, or back in the day of the vestry and the justices of the peace, where, as I understand under the common law, your fate was in the hands of these individuals. We want them to turn every stone over and make sure that everything is okay, because your financial award because of that decision, or your liberty because of that decision, is the important thing for you. How do we get the rest of us to appreciate that this is not a troublemaker just there to delay the process?
Well, I'm sorry, but you cannot. It's not your job to actually fix people or to awaken people or anything along those lines. The best thing you can do is to hold your truth, communicate lovingly what your truth is all about, and that's it. And it's actually like that you get better results.
Okay.
Because people don't feel like, he thinks he knows better.
Okay. So you present your perspective, and then you be open to receiving others.
Yeah, but you make sure that you check yourself, that you're not trying to push onto them, because nobody likes to be told what to do.
Right. Even if your view is an absolutely established, excellent thing, it could also be where, for whatever reason, you have a preconceived notion that you wanted to go this way, and ignoring what may be presented as factual and accurate. So just have you hold your space and be open to others. That seems easy. That seems to be, why don't we all do that? So why don't we? Why do we?
Why don't we? Because it's a lot about ego, and it's right versus wrong instead of what's best or what's truthful.
Okay. So then, may I then ask then, again, in a relationship, so I can think of two individuals in a marital relationship, however that's defined. Sometimes we see that the perception that one is more assertive, more dominant, and the other one isn't as so. Or we may see it again back to the team, that committee is being charged with some decision, that there is one person that pushes a particular view and the others reluctantly acquiesce, the spouse or the other committee members.
Well, do you think it's a healthy type of relationship?
Not at all. But those are the outcomes that lead to.
But you see, that's what we see everywhere. It's narcissism and codependence.
Okay, narcissism and codependence.
Yeah, it's a perfect combo. The codependent was the narcissist.
Is it then that we need confidence, not necessarily what we may consider arrogance, but confidence in the person to hold his or her space?
Yeah, but you can't trust someone if you don't trust yourself. You cannot give what you don't have. So you cannot expect someone to just turn the way you want if you're not ready to hold your truth and your space, no matter what the consequence of holding it are going to be.
So to get to that space as an individual, can we develop that sort of?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I created that workshop for next week, to help guide people to understand what a boundary is and to have them start reflecting on it. Because this is the core of each individual on this planet. If you understand what your boundaries are, everything that defines you, then you know better. Then afterwards you learn how to communicate, and you know how to do when a boundary has been violated. You feel strong into your own power. Okay. But then as well as the same, if you don't feel strong into your own power, You might want to question, like, okay, do I feel like I'm being mean to someone? It's just all those internal questions that just naturally comes afterwards.
As we're talking, I'm inclined to think that people would have immediately thinking, partnerships between spouses or similar relationships. But I also quickly ask us to consider the working relationship, professional, but parent and child as well. There is a power dynamic. Sometimes they would say the child is in control, but there is that power dynamic between parent and child. So could we have that situation where the child is being, this is not the correct use of the word, nurtured. Hey, what do you think? I want you to, hold your space, develop the confidence, and be able to express yourself without the wider community chastising the parent for abdicating the parental responsibility of parenting, to allow the child to be empowered. So that power dynamic that exists and those healthy relationships, parent and child, after the break, that's something we could potentially look at as well.
Yeah.
All right, healthy relationships. Ms. Stephanie Dos Santos is our guest. Ms. Susan is right there to take the calls, 949-8037. Toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. In the studio with Stephanie Dos Santos, and we're talking about healthy relationships. And I think everybody wants to be in a space where you talked about, being healthy, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. And for some, we deliberately set about to ensure that we are working towards that. The physical health, we speak to our physicians, we try to sleep and laugh and exercise to be healthy. We look at our financial health in terms of saving and trying to plan for tomorrow, or spiritual health. There is this deliberate consciousness that we should employ in order to get to that level of health. But in relationships, we often take for granted our siblings, or even our offspring, even our pets. The pet will always be there when I come home, and you wonder someday, well, why do you get that loving hug? Well, did you actually invest time in, petting the dog when you come home and playing? I mean, it's just a dog, right? Really. So do we need now to consciously be aware of our relationships and actively do something to nurture and develop a healthy relationship?
Yes. And the first starts with the one with yourself, because you cannot give what you don't have, like we said before. It just all comes down to you. You can't be waiting for things to shift around by telling your partner or anyone, for that matter, you do this when you have to change, like try that, no.
Okay, so the scripture says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. I think that's what it is. Susan will check the scripture. Sinners like me should know the scripture. But even in different texts, and if you're saying if you can't give what you don't have, so if you don't love yourself, if you don't like yourself, how can you love somebody else?
Yeah. But most people grew up in dysfunctioning family where love was conditional.
Yeah, okay. You do this, you get that.
But the truth is, we have evolved quite a while, through history.
Mm-hmm.
But kids still get born in families that are not fully evolved yet because society is not fully evolved yet. It's just we haven't reached that level of consciousness. We still treat people like animals as commodity when there's true connection that can be established with them.
Yeah. Something that fascinates me, and I keep saying that I should, for my own edification, I should do what I've been wanting to do and spend more time looking at cultures and how societies over their history have evolved or developed. And there are two that fascinate me. The Chinese culture, maybe because the little that I understand about it, 5,000 plus years of history. What we have in the Christian world, the Bible that seems to be around as long. And you see the reverence that society has for its people and its ancestors, from the way that they lay them to rest, to the way they revere them as they age, to the deference that they seem to get. And I look at the Cayman context, and I hope it still exists, but I believe that it was a time not long ago when we had a similar respect for our parents and for their parents, not only because they were older than we are, but because they had this wealth of knowledge. And so we would listen, literally sit at their feet and listen to them tell us stories, or as my mother would say, spin yarns, and the oral history that you got, about the medicinal plants, about their travels, about their, travels might have been from one district to the next, not on a vessel to go on high seas, and yet we no longer do that. I wonder if that's contributing to the devaluing of our society, the connectedness that we once had is now being lost.
Well, to the comparison that you made with Asia, we need to understand that depending on where you are born and in the world, you're going to value different type of relationships. So it's true that in China, Japan, the most important relationship that someone can have is with the one they have with their ancestors.
Okay.
For us, it's the one that we have with our partner.
Huh. Or sometimes even with ourselves. We look in the mirror, and it's the only person that matters is look out for number one is the song we sing.
Yeah, but can you see how much pressure we put onto our partner?
Mm-hmm.
We expect our partner to meet all of our needs.
Do we consciously do that?
No, it's unconscious.
Okay, so and for those who are listening, this is why I enjoy living in this country. The opportunities to meet people who have a different background in education, who have different experiences and expertise, and I don't have to do it electronically. I don't have to travel. I can sit across the table and learn. I liken that to our seafarers who, they were on a vessel at sea sometimes months on end, and they were in close quarters talking to people from around the world. They were going to various international ports, maybe hours or days at a time, or sometimes weeks if the ship was in dry dock. And they got to learn a lot. So then let me then ask by saying that, in that pressure that we place on our partners, we want from them, if I might use it as the marital relationship. We want the best friend. We want the romantic partnership. We want sometimes the strategist who's going to play a game with us because we want to beat the next couple. We want the singer and entertainer because we're going out on town for the evening. We want the financial expert. We want the maintenance tech. We want the chef. We want everything from this partner, seemingly.
Yeah.
That's
a lot of pressure, isn't it?
I don't know the things to list. It's a lot of pressure. Is it possible then to get that the best friend who's also your amour?
Yes, of course. I mean, to my opinion, a healthy relationship starts with taking the time first to qualify the person. And if you take your time, noticing the red flags, develop that bond, that friendship, where you can start to really tune into how the person feel, how the person thinks, how the person feel, everything, then afterwards, this is how you can assess, okay, if we were to go into a relationship, I would like to know what are how do you react? How do you respond to challenges? If we have an argument or when you are being triggered, how do you usually react? Because at the start, if you don't take your time, you rush into it, and at the first argument, it's like, oh man, I'm out.
Yeah.
But if you take the time to actually, because it starts with yourself, if you know what you want, you can define very clearly, this is what I want. How do I express it? Because the truth is, most of us don't dare expressing it, what our boundaries are, because we're scared that it's going to jeopardize the relationship, or more commonly, we fear that we're going to be rejected and abandoned.
Okay. So communication.
Yeah. But holding that truth, but very often we don't even know what it is. That's why, it's important for people to start questioning what they think about themselves.
All right. And then I appreciate this opportunity, and hopefully others will weigh in if they have a comment as well. Right. So our phone lines are there if they want to share. In governments, sometimes, and this is how I see relationships being. So you have the elected government and the voters. You have the partners in a business. You have the school and the students. You have, the different relationships and communication. We want to know what is going on in a timely, accurately, so we can be informed. The partners in a relationship, so husband and wife, just as an example, if they don't share, and establish their boundaries, the expectations, their truth. And was it the book, Men are from Mars and Women from Venus, or Men are from Venus and Women are from Mars?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
We see the differences. Is it then that we are afraid, or we're not quite sure because we haven't been shown how to do it? How do we say from one partner to the next, hey, I didn't like that, or this is how I'm feeling? And we accuse men of, grunting and not talking. But you should know what I was feeling because you could see it. And then we complain to the woman, oh, you keep talking all the time, and I never know when you're upset, and that happened 5 years ago. But
see, we don't dare expressing what it is. We just play guessing games. It's like, are you okay, babe? Yes, I'm okay. Like, you're obviously not, right? But there's a fear attached to it. It's the fear of, if you say, actually, no, I'm feeling really hurt right now. You see, it sounds easy to say, but when you're in it, how many people, feel like I can't do it?
But it's vulnerable, right? You're
it's being vulnerable. It's like, I'm feeling really hurt right now, and like I would really like you to do this, or to leave me a little some time, and I promise that I come back in that amount of time, because we need to go to resolve that issue.
So let's look at a couple of things in relationships. Maybe let's look at the partnerships between spouses, for instance, and they go through different time periods in their lives, as I'm reminded of earlier. And with two things. The fact that companies, when they bring you on board as a new employee, put you through an orientation process. They tell you that, this is where things are, and sometimes that is a week or a month, not just here's the manual and you read it. And when you get married, the Calypso song talks about a marriage license should be like a driver's license, right? We get thrown into this thing for whatever reason, and we're expected to navigate it. And one day there's a child, and one day that child or children have now become parents of their own. They're off on their own, and you're looking at the person going, well, who's this person? And then we assign labels that there's a midlife crisis, or there's this, that, and the next thing. How do we avoid
middle life crisis? Well, middle life crisis is nothing more than your part of your being saying, I'm sick of playing a role.
Okay.
I don't know who I am. So that's why suddenly you just experiment crazy things. You just jump from a plane without a parachute, or it's true. So Yeah, so the best way to avoid that is to come down to, okay, what is it all about me? What is it that defines me? Because most relationships that I observe around, or people that I have on sessions, it's a codependent relationship. It's like, no, you're not going out drinking with your friends after work because, if you do that, then I'm going to do the same.
Okay.
It's, it's a dynamic, it's real. People don't dare talking about that, but this is really a dynamic that is very common. Or if you do that, then I'll be doing this.
So that notion of codependency, some would hear it and think that it's good that you're, rely on somebody else. But in the connotation that you're referencing, being codependent sounds like a negative thing. Yeah.
Okay, so we have to make the difference between being interdependent and codependent.
Okay.
Interdependent is the nature of what human beings are. We are an interdependent species. Sorry. A codependence, it's when you really depend on the other for your own happiness. That is actually very temporary. It's like a junkie, that just need that is fixed.
I remember years ago deliberately having a discussion on marriages of convenience. And immediately many people assume, that's, for immigration purposes in jurisdictions where one is able to get into the jurisdiction because the other has the immigration clearance to come in. And then as we explored it, there's a financial dependence, not one only dependent on the other, but the two together in order to maintain that expected or desired lifestyle, the shared cost of the house, the travel, the cars, the lifestyle. They need a financial pooling. And then there are other things. So that marriage of convenience, in a sense, becomes this...
Well, you're talking about compromise, right?
Okay.
In some ways. When we got educated that compromise is the key to healthy relationships. When it's the most terrible thing you can do in relationships. Because a compromise is to say, you take a little bit of pain, darling, and I'm going to take a bit as well.
Okay.
And unconsciously, you're expecting something in return to be validated.
All right. I've always, on a personal level, I've always tried to avoid the word compromise because it had a negative connotation.
Oh, you're feeling it, right?
Yeah. I would say, here is an individual with uncompromising principles, person of integrity. And that would sound like a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. But when you compromise, you sound like you devalue. So over the years, in trying to understand what is a better word, because I believe the objective is to get people to a space where they're not so dogmatic and adamant and insensitive that they're unwilling to listen to another perspective. So with that in mind and understanding that being codependent, which we all probably are without even appreciating and failing to appreciate that we're interdependent as we are with nations and relative to being independent, we'll take this break, right? And if you can remember when we pick up, how do we get people to understand that when you're in a relationship or the working relationship with your colleagues so that you can come to a consensus to make a decision as to what the product name should be or how the product should be designed or how it should be marketed or when it should be released to the market or whatever it is. Their legislators are proposing, a new piece of legislation, an amendment. There is a level of debate, discussion, and compromise and all the like. Is there a way to have an outcome that works without one feeling as if there's a loss? Now, maybe a little bit different, but this is where healthy relationships come in. All right. See how this discussion unfolds? All right. 949-8037. Toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. Give us a call. Let's hear from you. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
The Spring 2022 Labor Force Survey conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office will begin on Sunday, May 1st. The Labor Force Survey collects data on employed and unemployed persons. Trained interviewers with ESO ID cards will visit randomly selected households in all districts. The interviewers will exercise appropriate COVID-19 protocols using personal protective equipment. The interviews are confidential in accordance with the Statistics Act. No individual data will be published or disclosed. Survey data is exempt from freedom of information. If you need additional information, you can call the ESO hotline at 516-3329.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza, open Monday to Friday 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
This is a CUC advisory. Due to a required pole replacement, customers on Hurst Road in Newlands from the junction with J. Hubert Drive north to the Coast Guard headquarters, including all of North Sound Estate and all side roads, will experience interruption to their electrical service on Wednesday, May 4th, between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. For more information, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email at service@cuc.ky.
At Parker's, we're known for being calm people, but did you know we're fishing people too? From fishing rods for kids and adults, to bait, lures, coolers, and more. We have everything you need to hook, line, and sink your way to a catch of the day. Quality gear, cool accessories, everyday low prices. We're fishing people. Parker's is open Monday to Saturday, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Follow us on social media at Parkers345 or email info@parkerscayman.com for more information.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thanks for joining us. And thanks too to Ms. Stephanie Dos Santos for sharing with us. I think oftentimes we are quick to dismiss certain conversations without appreciating how they impact us. And I'm so grateful that you would join us and help us to understand that healthy relationships exist not just among the partnership in the corporate environment, the employees in an organization, the parent-child, the siblings. All of us, we want to have this quote-unquote healthiness about how we approach things. So with that in mind, as we talk to healthy relationships, and I'll ask you about it again later, we see different levels of training that are offered up to different people. We have different organizations, even within government, that help us to appreciate that the way we interact with one another should come from a space of love and sincerity. Now, you have a workshop you shared earlier next Wednesday.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that as we get into it, so that people can start to think. Wednesday. I mean, tomorrow is Friday, right?
Yeah.
Wednesday is just going to be, before you know it, it'll be December. So is it next Wednesday? Where and when? And what you can tell us about the workshop?
So it's going to be held at Parcel 110 on Wednesday, the 4th of May, at 7. So 7 to 8:30.
Okay.
And definitely about creating healthy relationships. It all starts with selves, so it's going to be about defining boundaries, understanding what it is to start with, tuning into yourself, and trust me, it sounds easy. All the clients I had, no exception, when we go through boundaries and understanding, okay, what is it that defines you? They all, no exception, come back saying, you know what, Stephanie, I was with my pen in front of that paper that you gave me, and I could not write anything. It's like as if I don't know who I am.
Okay.
And I look at them and I say, it's a good step. You're probably closer to where you want to go and who you want to be than anybody else. because you daring asking yourself that question. You placing yourself in a very uncomfortable position, and you're willing to understand, because you feel extremely uncomfortable. It's a fact. But if you want to live more consciously and therefore develop healthy and more conscious relationships, it's not a walk in the park. It is uncomfortable. The truth is you're not alone, and this is a necessary step. That's why when people say, oh, if the client don't feel good when they leave the place, they might not come back. Or I'm like, I'm not there to teach them how to cope. They want the true healing. They want to be able to go to the core, so they stop repeating the similar pattern, just incarnated in a different body.
Okay. I mean, you talked about boundaries, and if we look at it from the perspective of physical boundaries in relation to our properties, we seem to like that. This is how my piece of land and my physical space is defined, so that you are in there. Our offices, for instance, that is our boundary. We have a certain either accepted or expected norm. If the door is closed, I'm probably in a meeting. You knock different little things, right?
But you see, you're saying the word, it's defined.
Right. So when it comes to the individual, some of us don't want to establish a boundary. If we do, and we tell, perhaps this does not happen, but let's give us an example. 2 co-workers, and one comes into the co-worker's space and say, I need you, or I would like you to do this, and then we'll say, hey, wait a minute, I'm in the middle of this thing now. I'll get back to you. I can't chat with you. I can't go for lunch. I can't do that task for you right now because I need to do this. Chances are there may be a little bit of a friction, because one has said very understandably, I need to get this deadline done. I need to respond to this thing now. And yet the other is all in a huff and a puff. Now, that's an attempt to establish some sort of...
Well, it's a need, yeah. And it's true, it's better to express your needs once you know your boundaries. Okay. The boundaries, it's what's going to allow you to express what you need.
Okay.
So then afterwards, it's the way you communicate it. It all comes down to the way you communicate. It's, okay, I would really appreciate your help. People don't like being told what to do. But if you hold that space and you tell them, this is what needs to be done, I've got those deadlines, I actually really need your help. When can you help me with this?
Okay.
Then the person is in charge. It feels, okay, I can feel that person needs my help, because in reality, if someone you see someone that needs help in the street, you would want to help that person. It's natural. It's human to want to help.
Right. So in that terms of helping, right, there's a saying that goes something to the effect that you find a good horse and you work it to death, for argument's sake. So let's take friendships.
Yep.
One friend says to another friend, can you do this? And the friend always responds, whatever that thing is, go pick this up for me, go drop that for me, lend me this, do that for me. And at some point, for whatever reason, the friend expecting the answer to be, yes, of course I can. When do you need, how high? The person says, no, I can't stop this now and do that for you. You can see, the change. I did that the other day with someone, and I couldn't maintain it for very long. It was a simple request. Can I borrow your pen? No. And it was expected that I would say yes. It wasn't a pen, but it was something else. And the expectation that we have, without actually consciously appreciating that we may be asking something of someone without appreciating the extent to which we are intruding, imposing, maybe come to almost...
Taking too much.
Right.
And the other person is there and keep giving that too much, and because probably looking for a sense of validation, or just being told, you're such a nice guy. Every time I need you, you're there. I mean, yes, it's good, you see, but then you have to tune into the other person that helps all the time. Because if you're putting what's important to you aside to meet the other people's needs instead of yours first, it's a sign of poor boundary.
Okay. But then as a society, we are, and if this is not the correct word, conditioned that we're to give, we're to do. For the people.
Already when we're a child, you have to meet your parents' needs to start with. So it starts very early on.
Very early on. And if you say no, you're a bad person. But of course you can do it. You have all the money in the world. You're retired. You're on vacation. And do we not have these examples either in our own personal lives or the friends close to us who sometimes may share that they've been taken advantage of? They've been imposed upon?
If you feel taken advantage of, it's because it's a sign of a poor boundary.
Okay.
Can I give you an example?
Yes, please.
Okay, so my best friend in New Caledonia, the only time that we can call each other, it's when it's at night for here in Cayman.
Okay.
And starting to feel like I was a bit hesitant to call her because it always lasts 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to reflect on it and think, okay, it's not healthy for our relationship, for our friendship, to be like that. I need to express it to her.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up having this conversation, which is, as you can imagine, feel like walking on eggshell a little bit, because it's kind of like telling your best friend, you know what? I mean, you're not really being aware. I'm telling you, I need to go and have a shower, and 45 minutes later, we're still on the phone. I think we all have that friend that speaks too much, and we don't dare
Hey, I may be that friend. I don't know.
Okay. Well, you see? So I had to have this chat with her and to say, look, I can feel that you need that time. You know that because you get a lot of the conversations we have. Also, I need to talk to you about what I need, because I spend so much time on my phone and screens all day. Once it's 8 p.m., I just want to be out of it. And I said, so it's not about her compromising and say, okay, I'm not going, to call her, or it's about the finding a third option, because very often we think it's either black or white, it's this or it's that. There's always a third option. If she needs me, I will not cut her off. It's going to be, okay, what can we do? And I came up with this plan where we're going to speak to each other a little bit more often, not just twice a week, but a bit more often and less time. And at the end of the conversation, very uplifted conversation, and it strengthens your bond in the relationship, because now she's becoming more in tuned into what I need. So she's paying attention to how I feel and really hearing me.
Well, I commend you for that, because we often, even with our spouse or siblings or our children, we don't express that so that they understand what is transpiring. There's not that open, honest communication, that dialogue.
But that damages the bond, right?
Okay.
Because you feel like, I can't tell the person, so I'm going to avoid interacting with the person.
And then you finally drift apart. The marriage, the friendship.
Yep.
All right, our news break looms. Let's pause and maybe revisit from the perspective of, I wrote down the word high maintenance. Some of us are high maintenance. Some must say, we got high maintenance friends. Is there such a thing? And how do we address it as we talk about healthy relationships?
Okay.
All right, join us right after the break.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
One arrest has been made in connection with the shooting of Mr. Harry Elliott on Monday, and a woman was also arrested for harboring that individual. Also, police are investigating a second fatal shooting this week, with 911 reporting to Radio Cayman that Cain Dimitri Thomas succumbed to gunshot wounds after being attacked along West Bay Road near White Sands condo around 1:30 a.m. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Millions of Indians are experiencing a brutal heat wave that is throwing lives and livelihoods out of gear, and there is no relief in sight. Prime Minister Narendra Modi told state chief ministers on Wednesday that temperatures are rising rapidly in the country and rising much earlier than usual. The India Met Department has forecast a gradual rise in maximum temperatures by 2 to 4 Celsius over most parts of northwestern and central India this week, with no large change thereafter. And Twitter, which this week agreed to be bought by billionaire Elon Musk, has said its user members grew faster than expected over the past year. Advertising revenue has also been rising, but by less than was forecast. Some observers have questioned Mr. Musk's commercial judgment in buying Twitter, a platform that, despite its high profile, has not consistently made high returns. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us. And sometimes you think these conversations should unfold in the later evening because it's a very deep, certainly a very insightful, provocative, sort of evocative discussion, so that we think and understand that our actions, whether we appreciate it or not, how they impact others who are close to us, people that we genuinely love and care, whether it's our parents, our children, or siblings. Some of us have as you just relayed, with your best friend, you've got distance, you've got a time difference, and yet as much as you want to share and spend time with that person, there are other things that need to transpire. So I commend you. Maybe we will take a page from your book and follow your example and have that what seems to be a difficult conversation with that person so that they get a healthier respect and understanding. If you don't tell somebody, how do we know that they know what we're feeling?
That's exactly the point, You can't expect people to read your mind just because you're going to do a certain frown or things like that.
Right.
But having healthy boundaries, knowing what defines you, is the way to tell people how to love you better.
Okay.
What is it that defines Sterling? Okay, Sterling, you know what? Don't even think of calling him after, 7 p.m. because...
Well, that'd be nice.
No.
No, but you
I don't know, right?
That's a good example. Actually, I want to use that in a second.
Yeah.
There was a time, before I say that, what is it? Many of us have heard, the golden rule. And maybe we redefined, reinterpreted, and misapplied it. But isn't it that we want to treat others as we want to be ourselves treated? Right? So I had an informal rule for myself. I will not call, message, or contact you after 9 p.m. That was my rule. I would not do so before 7 a.m. That was my personal rule. Those closest to me understood that.
You can call that a boundary because this is something that defines you at that time, and it can evolve.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. I've had it forever. I've changed it somewhat with some people, right? But that's because we have now, in my best estimation, developed that understanding. Doesn't mean that you can't call me before 7 a.m. or after 9 p.m. if necessary, right? But you might say, 9 p.m., geez, that's early. Okay, I maybe not sleep that night because I'm working, but it doesn't matter. There needs to be a certain amount of time that you have so that you can study, you can do your stuff. I did not call it a boundary, right? Now I understand that's what it was.
Absolutely.
Right? And for some of us, if you call them after midnight, it doesn't matter if they're just cooking their fish tea or they're just coming home from work. They may get alarmed because, wow, it's 12 o'clock, something wrong must have happened, depending on the number that is showing up, right? So how then do we get that formally established with those around us so that, listen, and I'll be mindful because I do not want for it to be a political discussion, but I would like to do that for our voters to understand that we have elected people who are supposed to serve the interests of the country, but they're people too, right? Whether they're married, whether they have children, whether they have businesses, they're not machines, and even the machine comes offline at some point for maintenance. Why do we expect and believe that we can go to their houses, call their phones any day, every day, at every hour, and if they don't answer then and there, they're the worst things in the world, whether they are or not?
It might be coming out of insecurities and wanting to know just right now. I want to know right now. I mean, there's a time if you know that the person says that needs that me time and cuts the phone by 7 p.m. Well, too bad. That's what defines the person. Just call back tomorrow morning.
Right.
Or next time that you just arrange to call at the time that is available.
Right. But look at businesses. Right? Businesses close certain days. Certain businesses close after certain hours. And now we, just generally the collective, we expect that business and some live person to be available every day at every hour. And we complain about it. I mean, it doesn't matter that we just wanted, a little sweet chocolate or something. Why is that business not open? This is the 21st century. I should be able to get that. And we expect it to happen. and then we complain about, well, the healthy work-life balance.
Yeah.
So how does that?
Well, it's very likely that if you complain, it's easier to see it on other people, on outside situation, than to see it within ourselves.
Okay.
So very often when we feel triggered by something on the outside, it's because we're recognizing that we're doing it, but we don't want to admit it to ourselves.
Okay.
And we're going to criticize the other person.
All right.
So let's say, for example, you keep saying, "Oh, that person is so controlling. I can't stand her." And it's a true story. You know, that's what happened to me like a few years ago.
I'm sure we all relate.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, since she's triggering me, I better have a look at where I am being controlling.
Right. So I asked about high maintenance, and before I ask maybe for us to define it, I want to also add this as we talk about healthy relationships. So we have an organization who has an employee. It's a junior employee, it's a senior manager, whatever. And I'm thinking of those organizations where you, for whatever reason, seem to be on call constantly. Not uniformed services, not physicians, but even them as well. So you work in the private sector, in the financial services sector, for instance, and you take in vacation. And unless I'm mistaken, this is a common complaint that we hear constantly from everybody. They want to take a well-earned vacation. It's all approved. But the things they have to do in order to take the vacation, the things they have to do when they come back from the vacation, many say, well, it didn't make sense to go because I was at work anyway. Or while they are on vacation, the policy of the organization is that you must be available during these times, you must do this. Now, if that is the requirement, does that define and help us to consider healthy relationships? Does that play into that part? I mean, the employee is now gone on vacation with the family, with friends, for whatever reason, and yet they're
on the laptop.
They're on the laptop. Okay, they may be sitting on the beach, somewhere at Barcas, but they're still working.
Well, Del, if it's written already when you're being hired in the policies, you might want to discuss that point before signing in and jumping in. And if it's non-negotiable, you might want to consider other options.
If you have the option.
But the thing is, yeah, that's right. People think, but I might not have options.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do. You don't see it.
Okay. All right. And again,
you don't need to compromise yourself because, look, at the end, it's going to be a painful relationship, work relationship.
Yeah. And this is why I really, really welcome your accepting the invitation to have this discussion, because I think sometimes when we think of healthy relationships, we may look at it from the marital perspective, but it is that relationship, even the customer to the organization and the contracted person to provide that service. Just because you're a customer and you come in and present yourself in a certain way, it doesn't mean that the contracted employee or subcontractor is precluded from responding to you in a certain way. We say the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Well, maybe they need to. I don't know about that area,
right? Yeah,
but they might want to consider, like for flight attendant, a backup, like a person that can take over when the person can't fly.
Yeah.
So it might be the same. Instead of just putting one person onto the case, you put a second person.
Mm-hmm.
So like that, it's the other person that takes over all the clients. when the other is on vacation, recharging.
Okay. So that respect. So high maintenance, and I didn't say that to offend anybody or even to be jovial, but we've all said, Johnny is high maintenance, or it might have been said about us, right? Is there such a thing? What is it that we mean by high maintenance?
Well, I guess it depends on how you got educated. High maintenance. If you say, "Oh, she's high maintenance," it's very likely to be something quite negative, where it's going to tune into neediness.
Okay.
Very often, if it's like, "Oh, she's high maintenance," or "He's high maintenance," it's like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much needs that needs to be met there."
And I could put a stress on a relationship, a friendship, a marital relationship. We may have clients that seem to believe that we're the only client of the organization and wants to get all the attention all the time. because of whatever reason.
But you communicate. But if you don't communicate, it's probably because you're worried of losing the connection with the client or losing the client. But if you express to the client, I'm taking your request into account, and I'll get onto it as soon as I'm finished. And you can even give a time frame, something that is comfortable. But
communication.
Yeah.
All right. Can we revisit, as we're talking about healthy relationships, and our guest is Stephanie Dos Santos, and I want you to remind us, because I think the more that we appreciate how to develop, maintain a healthy relationship, we're loving ourselves so we can give love.
Yeah.
Right? And you said next week, Wednesday at Parcel 110, 7 p.m.?
Yes,
okay.
7 to 8:30 p.m.
Do we need to register? How do we get information?
Yes, so you can go on Instagram or the Facebook page called DNA Introspection. And you've got the link to my WhatsApp, and you just have to write your name, your email, and your phone number. And for the $25, you can give it in cash on the day of the workshop.
Okay. And I think
there's only 40 seats, though.
Well, that's the other thing.
Quite,
spaces are always limited, but that way you get the personalized attention. And I think too often too we don't understand how boundaries. I wrote it down as you shared. Healthy communication, how it helps us to, again, words are important, but more fulfill, sort of rewarding, better quality of life. Is that
absolutely, because you're clear with yourself, and you learn, as you go in time, to express your boundaries in a loving way. Okay. Where you honor your truth. And that's why very often people use boundaries to punish others for something they did that they didn't like.
Right.
But this is not boundaries. This is what we're going to see on the workshop as well. Okay. What is a flexible boundary? What is a rigid boundaries? Because there's boundaries that we set out of fear.
Okay.
So we're going to be going through how to connect, how to, with yourself, and how to hold your own space, and how to then communicate it.
All right. Maybe we'll ask something about that when we return, but I certainly want to revisit some of the discussion. We'll take a final break. When we come back, we invite you to rejoin us. Please stay tuned.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Attention parents and guardians. Any child who is 5 years old by 31st August must be enrolled in an approved educational program, including government, private, or homeschooling program. Registration for the 2022-23 academic year begins on 1st April. Applications received before 1st April will not be considered. Detailed students' registration guidelines and forms are available on the Department of Education Services website at www.schools.edu.ky or by emailing edu.registration@gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And I trust and pray that you found this engagement and interaction as helpful and beneficial as I have. As we speak to Ms. Stephanie Dos Santos and the idea of the context of healthy relationships, for many of us, we may hear or we may actually believe that what is being shared is useful, and we may even know how to employ it. But knowing and doing is two different things, so we don't put it into practice. We're afraid to be vulnerable. We are afraid of what people in society may say because we move from one space to the next or one behavior to the next. And I'm still trying to understand what is it about us that we are unwilling to maintain, establish and maintain certain boundaries, to own our truth, to embrace that thing which brings us joy and fulfillment, or to express to whomever and however, hey, I don't like that thing.
Because it's not part of...
Sorry.
It's not part of our programming.
Okay.
It's not part of the programming. Nobody is telling us about our boundaries. We actually grow up with the idea that other people know better what's best for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, if we go into relationships or we know we should do things but we don't, or we procrastinate, it's because we don't trust ourselves as well. So it's very hard. The socialization process has messed up so many things. Your self-trust, your self-worth, and then you go about life, doing too many things for people so you can get that sense of validation. You're such a good guy.
So that sense of validation.
Yeah.
We want it from our teachers, from our parents, from our spouses, our friends. And I'm mindful, because I'm not trying to be derogatory by the way, but certain words as we were speaking come into mind depending on where we are in our lives. So the child in the classroom who is helpful, don't know if that's the label now, if that was even helpful, but we would talk about the teacher's pet, that the individual employee in an organization that is there, we will say words, he's a suck up. We assign and malign in ascribing certain terminology to certain people, but they're looking for validation. We ourselves, we say we're givers, we want to do for other people, and consciously, unconsciously, we're seeking some sort of approval, validation.
Yeah, and it's normal to some extent, right? Because we are relationally dependent. So we do need that. It's just the way we go about getting it. What is the energy source there? What is it, is it out of fear, out of lack, out of...
But help me, if you can, to understand where some of us, we are in a space and we feel devoid of something. And in another space, we feel, see, sense, and are probably open or are able to receive that thing, that love, that nurturing, that safety, that validation, that sense of security, safety, whatever, that thing. But for whatever reason, we don't move from this space to that space, from job that is unsatisfying to pursuing that hobby that we would love it to be a career, to changing even subjects in school, to changing partners, to moving neighborhoods. We stay here instead of going there.
But there's lots of fear attached to it. We don't trust that the decision we want to make is going to be serving us.
Mm-hmm. Is it then? Okay. And I'm sure there are probably other reasons that drive that fear.
Plenty.
But what do we do? But can we do anything about that? What do we do
about
it?
The healing process, it's about going back into what is, so first to assess what is it that is not working for you in your life at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a pattern there. So any adult that experience unhealthy relationships in his adult life, add for model, as example, for parents, unhealthy relationships. Because that's why when a woman goes to men or man goes to women that are obviously not going to be healthy or fulfilling, it's very likely because they want to rewrite the outcome that they didn't have with the parent.
So they believe they can change what was a bad experience, parent-child, to make a good experience that now is toxic with spouse.
Yes. So, for example, if as a woman, my dad didn't feel my needs or anything like that, it's very likely that I was, and that's a fact, that was going to go towards men that are emotionally unavailable, in the unconscious hope to rewrite the outcome that you didn't have with your parent, with your dad.
And is it then that the male offspring and the female parent, the son with the mother, or is it the daughter with the father? Is it always that, or is it could be son?
If you're a woman, and you're like man, it's going to be with the parent of the opposite sex.
Okay.
Or if you're gay, it's going to be like to the same sex parent.
Okay, it's interesting, huh?
Yeah.
And we see that, and yet we are apt to repeat it.
Yeah, but that's why what is important to do is to address those fragmented parts, because the truth is, if you go towards a partner that is emotionally unavailable and you know it, you need to tune inside, and you know that there's a part of you that know it's no good. And there's a part that just say, go for it. Well, it's these two parts.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fragmentation that has happened during a trauma when you were a child. That's why but it's stronger than you. Like you can't do that thing that feels right.
And then we almost jokingly, not that we think it's funny, we say, "Oh boy, you're a sucker for punishment." We make comments like that in order to trivialize it and try to negate it to some extent. Is it then?
Well, you see, that's interesting you say sucker for punishment, because we, under education, we haven't changed from the 1600. So there's that philosopher, I forgot his name, he came up with the punishment reward. It's the 1600s. We are still the same, we're still operating the same way. If you're a good boy, I'm going to give you what you want. Otherwise, no. Okay. If you're a good boy, I'm not going to abandon you. I'm not going to reject you. So this is literally the programming that you're getting on your subconscious mind. And this is going to be the basis on which you're going to operate as an adult.
And then that relationship impacts your children and
of
their
course.
Relationship and the cycle continues.
Yeah, until one of the children has grown up, start to say, you know what? I'm sick of that stuff. And instead of looking outside for the right person that never comes, starting to look from within. And once you start bringing that change and just that awareness, because trust me, awareness is already like 99% of your transformation. And it is painful because we want to be perfect. Even if we say, oh, I know I'm not perfect. The truth is, deep inside, we all got conditioned to be perfect. I mean, to the image of perfection that your parents thought it was. So it's going to be different from you, for me,
But I can imagine that many listening, depending on their mindset, would be inclined to say, there's some good points here. Then there's some who are saying, but real life isn't like that. You gotta suck it up, buttercup. This is the bed you made.
Well, if it's your choice, go for it. I mean, like I say, I'm not here to change the world. I'm holding that space, and whoever wants to learn about themselves or get some guidance, or I mean, I'm not saying that I'm going to teach them about them, right? Because your boundaries, it's only you that can define who they are. Nobody can tell them. Yeah, even your dad, no one. That's why at the workshop, actually, it's going to be. I had this lady yesterday. She asked me if she could come with a 10-year-old daughter because she keeps asking questions, and she said to me, "Steph, I don't think I can answer those questions, but it seems like those boundaries is a good platform. Do you think she can come?" I'm like, "Of course, bring her along."
And I'm glad you share that, because I think many times, as parents in particular, even though we believe and recognize the questioning and intelligence, I use that word generally, of our children, we don't feel equipped. And worse, we feel that this is not a subject that they should be exposed to because they're 10 or they're 20. But yet, if they understand certain things, it may help them to be not just in a healthy relationship with friends, but the choices that they make.
Yeah, because like you say, we didn't get the tools for it. But if you want to empower your child, it's you have to start seeing outside the box.
Yeah, as you shared, I'm thinking back to the examples I know where the conversations either within the home, the parents with the children, the siblings amongst themselves, or in organizations, and we talk about the culture of the organization where there's a team meeting, for instance, but it's a genuine meeting where they can discuss things, and then whatever's said there is a generally accepted feeling that there is no.
Well, that's the thing is we're going towards emotional parenting. You know, like we mentioned, it's like we haven't changed from the punishment reward from the 1600. We're on the verge of something really new, and it's called emotional parenting. So when I had this lady yesterday asking this question, I thought that was beautiful because it's about, you know, saying, well, actually, I don't know anything. I mean, I'm not pretending that I know everything. I know I've got some knowledge that could be actually very helpful as well.
Okay. Well, I'm hopeful that you know, Wednesday next, that it causes people to come away in a better space where they own their truth. So 7 p.m. next Wednesday, Parcel 110.
Yes.
The social media platforms are available for people to get information.
Yes, from DNA Introspection on Facebook or DNA Introspection on Instagram.
Well, I've enjoyed the discussion, and you know, I consciously try to learn and understand, and you know, be in a position so that it helps me. Whether it's these discussions, so I have to read Dr. Borden with her monthly mental health matters, and that's coming up, you know, on Monday. I come away not as an expert, but recognizing that the only thing you know is that you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely.
And if you're not willing to learn, you know, to engage with other people, how can you come away and understand your truth and the like? So you've always been very inspiring. I must share, and hopefully she will forgive, you know, the comment. But much of what I've learned recently, as you shared publicly, has been very instructive and reminds me of, you know, previous conversations, and I'm blessed as a result, man. I just wish I was smart enough to take it on board, but that's a painful lesson to learn.
Come on.
Well, Miss Daphne, thank you very much, Mom.
You're welcome. Thank you as well.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. So for those, you know, next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Parcel 110, healthy relationships can extend just, you know, beyond and certainly include not just spousal or marital. It could be with your children.
Yeah, it's like even if you're single, if you're a woman, a man, want to bring your children along, feel free.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to future discussions if your schedule allows, so we can talk more.
That's good.
All right. Well, Miss Susan is going to play wonderful music as she always does. You can make a request, but if you're like me and just want to sit back and relax and enjoy it, you don't have to worry about it. It's good music. Tomorrow, please join Mr. Art for the record at his usual time. And of course, you know, got a treat for you. The Red Honorable Ray Blanca is going to be my guest tomorrow. You know why? Well, I'll tell you when he joins us. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.